Ahoy hoy, I'm Planewalk, and I've realised something. I'm pretty sure I haven't done a video on D Marble yet. Let's change that.
Alright, I've titled this presentation Understanding How Seasons, Perspective, and the Sun's Movement Points to a Flat Earth. Some of these observations are going to be things that you may have seen already. This is primarily for newcomers and perhaps a refresher to get back to the basics for some of the more seasoned flat earthers.
So if this is for newcomers, then I expect this to be rather convincing. Don't disappoint me, D Marble. He's going to disappoint me, isn't he?
As the heliocentric cosmology teaches us that everything came from a godless Big Bang.
So immediately he gets something wrong. Most people aren't taught that the Big Bang is completely godless. There are actually quite a few people that say, well, God could be responsible for the Big Bang. And there are some people that say that the Big Bang can only happen if there is a God. It generally just comes down to your worldview. If you believe that there is a God, then you'll probably say something along the lines of, yeah, God created the Big Bang. If you don't believe that there is a God, then you'll probably go, yeah, well, the Big Bang doesn't need a God.
Flat Earth cosmology, on the other hand, teaches that we are in a system that has been created and that we didn't evolve from monkeys and all that nonsense that comes along with the globe model.
Nice conflation that you've done there, conflating the globe with evolution and science, and conflating flat earth with religion. Now, I'm not a big fan of religion, so I love that you've done this little separation. Now, even though I like this little separation of religion and flat earth versus the globe and science and evolution, I'm going to have to disagree with you on that. So, some religious people believe that evolution happened and was guided by God. Some flat earthers believe that evolution occurred. Some flat earthers are atheists, and some globe believers are religious. So yes, as much as I'd like it to be as simple as the false dichotomy that you just tried to pull, if we're being intellectually honest with ourselves, it isn't.
That your life actually has value, that you're more important than just a speck of dust in infinite space on some spinning ball in a vast, endless universe.
Just so you're aware, reality does not care about your feelings. So if you want to feel great by believing that the earth is flat because that makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside, it doesn't mean that the earth is flat.
Okay, this is the 1892 Gleason standard map of the world. I lean towards this map because it makes sense to me based on my personal observations.
Does anybody want to tell him? Should I tell him? Alright, that map is a projection of the globe. Sure, the particular version that you've got up on screen is called the Gleason's map, but it's basically just the azimuthal equidistant projection.
This will make sense to me because, well, I mean, it shows what we know, that most of the Earth is covered in water.
But so does the Mercator projection.
And, you know, pretty much how it's set up there. It also works pretty well with the flights on Earth, and where we've seen examples of emergency landings taking place where it wouldn't make so much sense on a globe. It actually fits very well with this particular model.
But it doesn't work so well with direct flights from Sydney to Santiago, does it, Ranty?
Absolutely.
The June solstice. In the figures June and December, the white represents the sun's position in his respective months at noon. This shows sunlight inside the Arctic Circle for 24 hours.
Isn't it kind of strange, though, that the sun is only highlighting that particular blob-looking area? It's odd how, on your model, the sun is lighting up parts of the Earth that are further away from the sun than some parts that aren't lit up, even though there's no real reason why this should be happening.
From June 21st, the sun moves round the tropics in a spiral circle, widening every day until it reaches its destiny on the southern or outer solstice on December 21st. On December 21st, the sun moves round the Tropic of Capricorn, and during the day lights up the southern portion of the Earth from the Arctic Circle to some portion of Antarctic ice. There is no sunlight 80 degrees south, but unknown regions of ice.
Citation fucking needed. I'd love to know where they get this information of there being no sunlight 80 degrees south of the equator, because No flat earthers have actually been to Antarctica. They refuse to go because otherwise they would realise that Antarctica isn't actually off limits. It's probably just something from a flat earther who was wondering, how do I make flat earth seem reasonable? Then they thought, oh, I know, I'll just make stuff up. And thus every flat earth explanation ever was born. Anyway, in December further south than 80 degrees, you get 24-hour sunlight. And there's videos on the internet that show this. For example, there's one that I showed in my video on Eric Dubé. I'll leave a link in the description.
The Earth acts as a massive timepiece, and it kind of flies in the face of the idea that all this originated from an explosion from nothing. Like, explosions don't create such order and predictability in a system. So,
oh dear. He thinks that the Big Bang was actually an explosion, whereas in reality, the Big Bang was actually an expansion, and the universe is technically still banging. Now, despite this, I will still address his straw man of an explosion creating order and predictability. So first off, I'm not so sure why you're so concerned with an explosion creating order, because technically, if we're talking about entropy, nothing creates order. As for predictability, well, explosions are very, very predictable. For example, if we were to have an explosion on Earth, it is likely that it would create a crater. However, if the explosion was underwater, it might create something along the lines of a tsunami. There's also particular substances that an explosion might create. If you were to put cesium in water, you would get new substances.
I want to turn your attention to timeanddate.com. We use timeanddate.com. There's a feature, it's the day and night world map. It shows the position of the sun and the moon on Earth real time.
I don't know if he realizes this, but timeanddate.com is based on the globe.
Also, this kind of gives away the idea of the sun and the moon not being the sizes and distances that we've been told, because on this model, the sun and the moon act as a spotlight. Like, they're not, the sun's not 400 times the size of the Earth. It's not 93 million miles away. The moon isn't 4 times smaller than the Earth and 239,000 miles away. Both of these luminaries are small and local, and they act as a spotlight as they make these circular paths over the face of the Earth. And that's depicted here, as you can see, the sun and moon acting as a spotlight.
I'm not sure if D-Marble realizes this or not, but that's just a diagram. Of course the sun and the moon aren't going to be to scale. Ah yes, but everything should be in scale. Ah, that's much better. So essentially what date and time does is it takes the light that's hitting the Earth from the sun on the globe and converts it to a 2D flat map. And the goal of that flat map isn't so that people go, ah, the Earth is obviously flat. It's so that people go, oh, these are places where it should be sunny right now. And where they put the sun and the moon are the parts of the Earth that are closest to the sun and the moon. So just because it kind of looks like a spotlight, and honestly it doesn't actually look like a spotlight as we're about to see, that doesn't mean that it is a spotlight.
Now, I like this because this is a video that was done by a channel called The Buzz Dev, and they took the data from timeanddate.com and they plugged in that data from 2016 and created this model, and they put that data onto the flat Earth map, and it just shows the path of the sun and the moon.
Now, be honest, does that actually look like a spotlight? I'd say no. Since when have you seen a light that will cover most of an area except for one particular area that it just doesn't cover, even though that there's nothing blocking the light source? Especially if you're claiming that the reason why the sun only covers a small amount of the Earth is because it's a spotlight. Last I checked, spotlights don't mutate over the year.
I'll leave a link in the description for this video if you want to check it out. I believe they've done other models using the information from timeanddate.com, but
now the way that he phrases it there makes it sound a little more technical than what it actually is. It's actually fairly easy to create this kind of animation. All they've done for this animation is they've taken the images from timeanddate.com and deformed it so that the top part of the image is in the center and the bottom part of the image goes around in a circle.
This is something that really resonates with me because it's the real-time information that we're getting from timeanddate.com applied to the flat earth map.
So firstly, this isn't really real-time information. It's just information that is predicted based on the globe model. And secondly, just because you can fit it to a flat earth map doesn't make the earth flat. It's really strange that you're using things that the globe predicts to try and prove the flat earth. That makes no sense. Anyway, what else do you have to say? Hang on. There's 15 minutes left of his video. I might pick this up at another time. I mean, it's 2 o'clock where I am and someone's stolen the sun, so I might get some sleep. As always, a big shout out to my $20 or more patrons. What Jesus, Holmes, Hugh Jarsz, M.C.Nutkin, Wolfie, Stringer News 1, Ashpanash, Curtis Reynolds, and Morrie. If you want to support me financially, you can do so on Patreon. But anyway, I will see you in the next video. Between you and me, thank you for watching. Do you think that it might have been Maui that stole the sun? I mean, he did want more sunlight for his days, so I bet it was him. Bastard.